Alright, welcome to round 11 of the FRL Division 1 Championship. Here we are at Belgium, Spa, for what's going to shape up to be yet another exciting race. With a pretty familiar cast, as well as the return of the two Alpine Division 2 drivers reserving, Pred and Yeti. They've been performing well and honestly just putting up a very strong argument for them earning a seat next season, and I think they're both going to get it. But I think they're going to look for another chance to prove it yet again here. Meanwhile, of course, we have Max Verstappen continuing his run towards the championship, but Wolfer is certainly still in contention, as well as Envy and Pink potentially, as well as even Henny, thanks to Henny consistently finishing quite well. Now this track, however, can prove to be quite difficult. Speaking of, we'll take you on a little bit of a tour of one of F1's most all-time classic tracks, the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, which I probably butchered the pronunciation slightly, so bear with me. This track bears a total 19 corners to make your way around, and 2 DRS zones, one down the pit straight, the other just after one of the most iconic corners in F1, Eau Rouge, which Sugi is actually coming up to shortly. And it's a very, very long straight there. You can see through this turn, you go almost flat out, letting off the tunnel just slightly in qualifying, or risking going flat out, but you can also risk spinning in the process. But you have a long straight immediately after, meaning that straight line speed is important around here, but that doesn't mean that you could just go for a minimal downforce build like Monza, because Sector 2 is important with a lot of twists and turns throughout, including a hairpin turn right here, which can be a potential overtaking spot as well. And speaking of overtaking, it's actually pretty common around here. You can make an overtake potentially anywhere at this track, really, which makes for very exciting racing. However, of course, especially in Sector 2, it's a risky one. Now, the last place you want to try to make an overtake is through Eau Rouge. And I really hope nobody tries to go for it, but I have a feeling someone may try to go for it. As far as the times getting set up, Ghostly is leading the session by a considerable margin to everybody else. But I have a feeling a few others are going to come up to contend that time. At the moment we have Wolfer making his way through. He's already putting up a pretty strong time. And he's just at a purple sector too. He's looking very confident around here. Now, in terms of setups, downforce settings are going to be pretty low, in a range of 50, well, 0 to 50 for wings. It's going to be under 10. And so you'll see a lot, even as low as 0-2 or 2-0, depending on how you prefer oversteer or understeer. Now, an oversteer setup, it can be especially unstable here, I think. But again, if you can maintain that control, you'll have more speed. But I think maybe someone may prefer understeer over oversteer here. I myself always prefer understeer. And as well, it is a little bit slower, it is more balanced, but right now, we see a familiar sight as Alpine is leading 1-2 in qualifying at the moment. But BRT Arrows are reserving for McLaren in place of Skid. He's putting up very strong times, getting pretty close to his teammate, who is no slouch himself. After all, he is a defending champion. Oh, and that is a Williams behind him that was off the track. I think that may have been, yep, it was Weltang. Meanwhile, Sketchy Bull looks like he invalidated his lap run, so he's going to go into the pits. Now, another thing about this track is that, like Monza, tire wear is pretty severe, especially on the soft tires. Just doing one flying lap run, just one, will be enough to put over 10% wear on the tires. So, you don't want to do multiple runs on this set, otherwise, well, it could turn out quite badly. Speaking of, unfortunately, that is FaZe Burger, who I think is crashed out. It's kind of hard to tell where he is. It looks like he's just outside of the pit lane. I'm trying to see if we can spot where the Haas is, but looks like it's gone. Well, not the Haas, but rather the Williams. Well, that's unfortunate, and the fact that he failed to set a time and crashed means he's probably going to be starting dead last. Well, I said probably for a reason, because Zip has retired immediately, and so now he'll be starting at the back. I don't think Zip even went out on track. I think he may be serving a quality ban, though I could be mistaken. Meanwhile, Henny is running on a flying lab, and the two Hasses are getting ready to go on a flyer. The two of them actually performed quite well, securing a double podium for the team last week. And wouldn't be surprised if they're going to look for another one. Meanwhile, Gio's in the middle of a cooldown map. Looks like, yeah, he's down by a massive amount of time, so he's definitely going to go in. Zip has actually now left this session. I hope that doesn't mean that he's gone. I hope he's going to come back before the race starts. Oh, and Henning spins out into the wall. That's a lap ruined and a front wing broken. Oh, Henny, he did not have a great lap, of course. It's unfortunate that he spun. He was doing well up until that point. Sketchy Bull looks like he had a mistake as well. He's over 2 minutes on his time. Fred meanwhile is getting ready to get underway for his lap. So Fred's gonna get started on his flying lap. We're gonna ride on board for this one, going to turn one. It's a pretty tight exit, as well as there's some debris around, I guess. But he's gonna keep on going. Now, going through Rouge, you got to go almost flat out, maybe let off the throttle a little bit near the top of the hill. But from here, it's pretty much a straight line all the way down towards the turns 5 and 6. And if you mess up the rhythm here, it can really mess up your lap in general. But Fred, he does well, gets onto the curbs nicely, sweeps around wide to lean immediately into turn 7. Now around this next hairpin turn, you need to take a wide exit to prepare yourself for turn 9. And that's exactly what he needed. Now he's going to have a very long left-hander of turns 10 and 11. And sweeping around really wide, just taking up as much track as he possibly can. It's now turns 12 and 13, which is almost like a slightly longer chicane, really. And going really wide off the exit to prepare himself for turns 14 and 15. Now, these two turns can catch out a lot of people, especially on the exit, because that curve can send someone into a spin. I know this from personal experience. Now we just have the long back straight. Well, there are technically a couple turns here, but you can go through here practically flat out. up until the final chicane, which is a decent overtaking spot if you want to take a risk at a dive bomb. And Brett navigates well out, gets good on the throttle, honestly. Crossing the line, goes 6th overall, just a little bit behind his teammate, while Arrows goes first. So far in the top 6, we have Alpine, Haas, and McLaren in all 6 top spots. And I have a feeling it's going to be between those 3 teams to ultimately claim victory today. Now in the standings, actually, looking at them now, Max is leading by a pretty good margin. Henny, thanks to sheer consistency, is up to 2nd in the championship with Envy 3rd. Now, we are running out of races at this rate, and Max has over a 50-point difference in the lead, so I think he could very well secure this championship soon. It really all depends on how it plays out, but really, I mean, all it would take is about 2 DNFs, and suddenly he's back in line with everybody else, and well, this is F1 League racing. Anything can happen. Literally anything can happen. Oh, and Henny invalidates on his run. That is really not good, because I don't think he has a ton of time left. He has under 4 minutes left to go. Still, as long as he just slows down, manages his tires a little bit, he has 2 options. A, rush into the pit lane, and then go back out again for one final run, but that'll burn up a lot of time, or just wait, bide his time, preserve the tires as much as he can, and go out for one more run. Well, Taylor has retired. Looks like he actually may have crashed out, unfortunately. I mean, this best start is going to be P15. And, well, it will be P15, actually. Wonder Toast is taking his time into the pits. I think he was trying to avoid the wall there. Jay is also in the pits. And I don't know if he's going to... No, he is coming back out. Never mind. Wonder Toast, if he really wants to, does have enough time to go up for one last run himself. Oh, and that's Ghostly. Looks like he took a little spin around. This is not the first time we've seen a car lose it here, actually. Ghostly a little bit close to the wall, and he's now back on track just in time for the Ferrari of not thought to pass him. Well, the good news is it wouldn't really be impeding because Napa, well, he's clearly on a cooldown lap after a pretty good run to put him 7th overall. Meanwhile, Henny's getting ready to run out. He is running out right now, actually, on his flying lap. After validating the first lap through Rouge, he can't afford it again. Otherwise, he's going to be starting all the way at the back of the field, and he cannot afford that or risk losing 2nd in the championship. And with the time remaining, Wonder Toast is remaining in the pits. I think he's going to get eliminated in Q1. Jay is going to go for one last shot. If he just gains 3/10, he'll be making it into Q2. But Welfang is on track right now, and I think he's going to get ready to go for a flying lap himself. Yeti doing the same right now, as well as J-Jo. So it's going to be getting close. Oh, and Wonder Toast has been disqualified for being parked in a dangerous location as the Yeti spins out. Wait, how is he... How was he disqualified for being parked in a dangerous location? Was he blocking a pit lane? That's the only thing I could possibly think of. That's a strange one, to say the least. Henny, though, is running through as quick as he can, putting up pretty solid times right now. And at this rate, I think should make it into Q2 no problem. Meanwhile, Jay's going on one final run to decide if he'll make it into Q2. He's improved by over half a second in Sector 1 alone. That improvement is going to be more than enough to get him into Q2. As long as he just finishes out this lap well and doesn't invalidate. Meanwhile, Weltang is running through right now himself. He's looking very confident right now. And he can put himself high. Yeti doing the same. Well, actually on a cooldown lap. But yet he is confident enough, I think, at that time. Still, it's actually going to be coming in a little bit close because his time is slower than Taylor Boss itself. Weltang, Jay, and Henny managed to beat Yeti. Yeti will be facing elimination. Welding is up by a considerable margin. Jay doing the same. Henny, though, he's slowed down. Well, I think Henny's going to be eliminated in Q1. I can only imagine the frustration he's currently having. But Jay, I think, might have done enough to put himself into Q2, and he does, and that's going to push Yeti down after he invalidated. So Yeti and Hanny are going to be eliminating Q1, along with Taylor Boss after crashing. Faceburger, Zipman, and Wonder Toes. A very disappointing qualifying for Aston Martin. Both drivers out in the first session. Meanwhile, Tato is finding a ton of improvement at the moment. Going across the line, he's going to put himself second overall. That is an incredible lap for him. And that has now put him as a potential wildcard contention with those top three teams. And actually, with his teammate not too far off, I think Ferrari could turn this into a four-way battle. And we're just waiting on Yeti and Henny to finish up, and that's going to be the end of Q1. Well, if Q1 is any indicator, I do think we are going to have a four-way fight for victory here. It's going to be exciting to see how this plays out. But the top 10 are looking confident. Mercedes not too far off either. And you can see a lot of them are within that 44 time. Arrows just barely into the 143s. Literally 1,000th off of being into the 144s. Alright, here we are now in Q2 with both Aston Martins out, one of them crashing. Only 4 drivers are going to be eliminated here, unless someone else crashes out. I hope not. but that is possible. Now, the top 10, I think it's going to be close, but I do think both Alpines, McLarens, Ferraris, and Hasses are going to make it in. It's just a matter of those final two spots. This Q2, I think, is going to be quite competitive. I legitimately do think the difference in getting eliminated is going to be by a few hundreds at some point. And we have a lot of drivers going out right now. About half of the field is remaining. The rest are either just biding their time or getting ready to head out right now. Now, I don't know if many people remember, but we did race here last season, and that race has become quite infamous. Uh, it started off with a massive pileup that was, I think, a 7 or 8 car collision or something like that, right through where JoJo is. Actually, directly into this little straight right here. That's where it all happened. I actually just missed out on seeing it, and I only saw the aftermath of what happened. After that, um, well, no, that was actually only the Division 3 race, wasn't it? But Spa was the last week. In the Division 1 race, everybody saw that massive pileup and just underfueled massively, preparing for a big safety car incident that never came. So, nearly half the field in that race. Oh, Jijo! He got on the throttle way too early, starting a lap, and well, now this lap is completely ruined. He's lost his front wing, and he's gonna have to go around to go back into the pits. That entire lap has just been made pointless and kind of a waste of time, which is why you can see he's running as quickly as he can. I just hope he backs off here, because otherwise he may lose control. Okay, he did. But as I was saying, everybody massively underfueled, and in doing so, nearly half the field by the end of the race, because there was no safety car and they underfueled, they had none left. And so they were like crawling across the line trying to finish, and multiple drivers lost at least 5 positions for it. It was honestly quite shocking to see it going down at that very moment. Just multiple cars coming to a near halt, just trying to get themselves around the track on that final lap. Saving as much fuel as they possibly could because they realized, uh-oh, there's no safety car, I may have miscalculated. So far, there are... Oh, I was about to say, so far, only one time it's been set, but I now stand corrected, it's now Power is on the line. I think a lot of people are struggling with track limits, which can be difficult, especially through Eau Rouge, where it is pretty easy to bot the lab, in all honesty, there. Again, whether you're losing the car or setting track limits. Well, yeah, Eau Rouge is one of the few corners that I actually know the name of in F1. Like, most of the time, I cannot remember many corners for the life of me. Like at Silverstone, I know only the Hangar Straight, the Hamilton Straight, and Cox. And that's about it. I do know like a couple of the other names, but I can't really place where they are. And then you have Monza, where I know a couple, but again, like I cannot place where they are for the life of me. Now we're that one half of the field has finished up a lap. The other half is going on a flying lap right now, with the exception of Jay getting ready to go on the flying lap. And right now, look at that! Max has set a new best time, but Wolver demolishes that! Well, in the previous session, we saw someone barely get into the 143s, and that was Arrow to go 43.999. Now, we have a time that was over a 10 faster, and now a time nearly half a second faster. Well, maybe this race isn't going to be that close after all. Unless someone could get close enough to challenge Wolfer, but Geo put in a spectacular time nearly into the 143s. Meanwhile, Suki, Welpdang, Envy, and Fred, well, Fred is actually invalidated, never mind. So just Suki, Welpdang, and Envy are on flying laps. Can they potentially get into the 143s as well? I guess we're gonna find out. Envy's gonna be crossing the line first out of all of them, and actually, I don't think he's gonna get to the 143s. No, he does. Just barely. He does make it in, and he's not gonna go fourth overall. Meanwhile, Sugi crossing the line, where is he going to put himself? He puts himself only 8th overall, and that is not good for him. He's going to want to improve, but honestly, if he just gains a 10th, he'd be ahead of Sketchy Bull, but you can see, between 6th and 7th, there is a pretty sizable gap there. Oh, and Jay is struggling with a bit of car control, got a bit of oversteer there. J-Jo and Slayer are on outlaps. Meanwhile, everybody else pretty much finished up their laps. Well, with one exception. Did I see someone spin out for a moment? No, must have just been my imagination. Jay, on his flying lap, is unfortunately invalidated. Oh, and he spun out. And actually, it was just pointing out to me that Wolfer and Max put in those times on slightly older tires compared to everybody else. So, they could go even faster. That is terrifying. Oh, and Wolfgang, struggling with car control a little bit just while entering the pit lane. If he's having that much trouble just entering the pit, so that does not bode well for the actual race. Player is back out on track, going on a flying lap, just flying through right now. I mean, you can see just how quickly a car can go through there. It's honestly kind of terrifying because, again, he needs to keep good car control. And while he can get away with going practically flat out on the softs, you cannot do that on the mediums and hards. He kind of has to back off at least a little bit going through that straight. Otherwise, you'll risk losing control of your car, but Slayer, I think, has already set a purple Sector 1, and he is looking rapid right now, though that time could be compared to Welpdang's right now. And Napop, for some reason, is prepping instead of intermediate tires. The Slayer spins out! And all that time he had gained has now been rendered pointless, unfortunately. And that spin has definitely not helped his tire wear either. And Brett is just taking his time on his outlap, and is okay. Yep, he's just getting ready to run out. For a little bit, I was confused and saw the back of his car, and I saw like the white edges on the tire. I just thought, wait, is he on hard tires? But no, it's just that half wheel design. For a second, I thought I was like losing my mind and thought, why would he go out on hard tires? Meanwhile, Arrows is running through on a new lap. Now, he set a time that was over a second faster than this previous one. And well, you can already see a difference in Sector 1 alone, but I think you're going to see a real difference in Sector 2. Sketchy Bull is also on a flyer, just ahead of Arrows. And there isn't a ton of time remaining, a little over 3 minutes left to go, which is why plenty of drivers are heading out for one last run. Fred, though, is running out of time, and after doing one lap where he had a bit of trouble, he's going to get going now. Meanwhile, checking with Sketchy, he's setting a much better Sector 2, over 2/10 up. As for Arrows, he's well over a second up. At that rate, he's going to put himself ahead of Ghostly, potentially ahead of Max. Well, he is too far back to receive a tow from Sketchy Bull, but Sketchy Bull, I think, is still going to set a solid time, rounding the final corner, crossing the line. Sketchy Bull is going to improve enough to put himself third overall. Meanwhile, Arrows just behind puts himself second overall. And that pushes Sketchy Bull down into a fourth, but still, McLaren is looking at a 1-2 in Q2 at the moment, but we still have one more session to go before we finish up qualifying, so their 1-2 may not be certain just yet. JJ is on a flyer right now. Now, he said to himself that he is a spa merchant, and while considering that he just said a purple sector 1, I would have to agree with him. I mean, still, considering he's a spa merchant and we're here at Spa, business is certainly booming for him. I mean, it isn't for Prid, though, who was unfortunately invalidated, and at that rate, I think he's going to be eliminated. Unless he goes out for one more run, and he does it soon. He could make it, and he could try one more lap, but his tires are going to be worn, and it could cost him more time. Meanwhile, Envy has retired in the pits. Wolfgang is going for one last run. Napop is actually running on intermediate tires right now. I really think he's doing this for practice. Either he's confident that he's going to make it in the Q3, or he thinks he's going to get eliminated anyway, so he's going to take this time to practice. I mean, if he is confident that he's going to make it into Q3, I think that confidence may be a little bit misplaced because we still have 4 drivers who haven't set a time. So unless multiple's going to invalidate, yep, Napop is that much closer to getting eliminated now. His teammate goes 8th overall. You can see the times are just getting faster and faster and yet ever closer at the same time. Kasugi on what is most likely his last run across the line improves enough to go 3rd overall. His teammate, meanwhile, is getting started on his last run. Fred not too far behind him. Jay spins, nearly getting in the way of Wolfgang, who's on a flyer himself and is over half a second up. Jay gets a 5-place grid penalty for a collision with Wolfgang. Well, Jay, after, he's not going to be able to set a lap time. He's invalidated. He's going to drop down to P19. Meanwhile, Wolfgang, he's nearly over a second up, but he's going to need more time if he hopes to make it in the Q3. Going across, he improves enough, but unfortunately, it's actually, well, I was about to say, he improves enough to put himself over a second ahead, but not enough to get into Q3. Unfortunately, Wolfgang is going to be facing elimination. Slayer, Fred, and Jay still have something to say about it, though. Well, maybe not Jay, though, because he just crossed the line after invalidating. But Fred and Slayer are still in this. Fred is going to be impacted by that tire wear, however, so he's going to have to put in everything he's got. Well, Napop, he's just still running on the intermediate tires. And J-Jo, he's actually about to get a little bit of a tow, but it doesn't really matter because he's down this time massively anyways. J-Jo is just taking his time, so really it's just up to Slayer and Fred finishing up. Slayer crossing the line, he improves enough to go 8th overall, and that pushes Napop down into 11th. Fred, where did he? did we go? Oh, he crossed the line. Unfortunately, could not improve enough to get to Q3. He's going to be eliminated along with Napa, Welte, and Jay. Well, that's unfortunate. I thought Napa may have had the pace to make it in, but we do have both McLarens, both Alpines, although almost both passes. Unfortunately for Fred, he just had a whole lot of trouble just setting a lap time. We have both McLarens, both Alpines, and both Mercedes in the Q3. However, I would not count Haas and Ferrari out of this fight just yet. I think it will be one of those 5 teams crossing the line to take victory. And that's going to be the end of Q2. The times have stacked up to be much more rapid than they were before. In the previous session, we had one driver barely getting to the 143s, and now we have well over half of the remaining top 10 in the 143s, and everybody else pretty close to that margin. Q3 is going to be very close. Again, the difference is going to be by a few hundreds, as seen right here, between second all the way up to 8th. Less than 3/10 is the difference between all of them. Alright, here we are now in Q3. 10 drivers are here in this session. Only one is going to take pole position. And we have 3 full teams in contention for it. We have McLaren, Mercedes. I was hoping one of them would be out on track a little bit. And both Alpines as well. Now, I do think MVR Sketchy could potentially pull it off, as well as Gio as well. JJo, I'm a little less certain, but he could very well pull in an amazing lap out of nowhere. It would not be the first time we've seen something like that. I still remember last season, at the final race in Abu Dhabi, Zipman pulling in a fantastic lap out of nowhere to put himself in pole. And I think very well we could see history repeated here. So honestly, I think any of these top 10 have the potential to get to pole. Though I would favor more one of the McLarens or the Alpines in this situation. Now, here in real life, we saw... Oh! Well, we didn't see a Red Bull DNF, but we did see it here. I was going to bring up how Max absolutely dominated the entire race. Unfortunately, Envy is not going to be dominating qualifying after crashing out horrifically. Oh man, it's a little bit of a weird place to lose it. Did he just get on the curb really hard and lose it? That's the only thing I can speculate. Unfortunately, that means Envy's best star is going to be 10th. Now Wolver's getting underway on a flying lap, running down the long straight. He's gonna have JJ not too far behind, maybe getting a little bit of a toe, but honestly, he's so far back, I don't think he's gonna get much at all. Arrows is following up, and Wolfer through Sector 1. Oh, he's invalidated his lap! Meanwhile, Arrows, Sector 1, he puts in a 30.302. Meanwhile, we have Sketchy Bull not too far off. Let's see the comparison between the two as Sketchy Bull comes up to the end of Sector 1. He is a little over a tenth off, and yet it's a purple sector. Whoa, did I misremember the lap or something? That doesn't sound right. Okay, JJ said a 30.3 in Sector 1, so yeah, that is faster. That's just strange. Anyways, JJ has a 116.5 in Sector 2. Meanwhile, Arrows, a 114.8. He is almost 2 seconds quicker than JJ right now. Meanwhile, Sketchy Bull running through. What time is he setting in there? He's right between the both of them. JJ sits at 145.1, a time I doubt he's happy with, as he was the second faster in the previous session. Arrows is going to be happy with that time, though. That is the best time we've seen yet. Now we have Sugi running through, crossing the line, puts himself second overall. That is a strong time, what I'm pretty sure he's going to be happy with. But Ghostly immediately beats it by a little over 2/10, and he gets a pretty close touch to Arrows. Well, I just got a hold of a bit of information. I was correct that Envy did get stuck on the curb, and he did spin out from it. Well, I figured he was riding on the curb too long, but he actually ended up getting beached on it, so that was a half right. It did involve the curb, and then it kicked him into the wall. Now, Wolfer getting ready to cross the line. Could he potentially beat his teammate? No, he cannot, but he does put himself third overall. Meanwhile, Max, oh, he's having a struggle of a lap, it looks like. Yeah, he is down massively. He's going to want to go for another run to improve. Now Max is going to cross the... Well, I was going to say cross the line, never mind, he's going into the pits. Chio, though, he's going on an outlap. Everybody else is just remaining in the pits right now. And they're going to go for one last run when there's only a few minutes left to go. If Ghost is going to make his way in, Wolfer will certainly make his way in as well. He is the only one on an outlap right now. And while I don't blame him because now he can see the track is practically clear, Wolfer will inevitably go in as well. So Gio's going to have a pretty much clear track, but it's when we get to a little over 3 minutes left to go that you're going to see everybody come out for one last run. So with the amount of time remaining, Gio, this is really going to be, I think, his only shot unless he invalidates. Now Gio's going to get started. We're going to ride him forward for this one. So you want to brake maybe a little bit earlier than you would expect in the turn one. Get as tight as you can, even on the curb a little. Get a good exit. Yeah, that's already a fantastic start. And again, you want to kind of ride the curve just a little bit on the left hand. That's absolutely perfect. Doesn't want to go too much on the left there. That's a lap of validation. Gio is running very nicely now. Now the braking zone can be a little bit tricky here. Too early, and well, too early is never good. Too late, you're going to go onto the blue runoff there. But Gio is already proving to be absolutely rapid right now. Running around the hairpin, he's keeping in very good control, just making the car as wide as he possibly can around this track, just taking up all the space that he possibly can. Going to the next corner, he wants to take a wide exit, almost going onto the green, staying on the curbs, however. Now it's over here, he wants to get a deep entrance, get back on the curb a little bit there, get a wide exit onto the curb, then set up the next corner. Now, this turn can be a little bit tricky to nail the exit properly up, and while you actually make sure to avoid the curve there entirely. Now he can go flat out up until the chicane, really. Now, on the exit of the chicane, you have to be careful, because if you do get on the throttle too early, you're definitely going to lose control of the car. But Gio just keeps in stellar control, and crossing the line puts himself 5th overall. Max, after putting in a time he's probably not too proud of, he's going to go for one last run, but his tires are going to be worn, and that is going to hurt him. Meanwhile, everybody else is going out for what is going to be one last run. No flying in sector 1, that's just Gio going slowly to let by Max on his flyer. Max has set an incredible sector 1. We've seen times in about the 30.3. That's a 29. That is incredible. A 30, well, a 30.3, and that's a 29. Yeah, that is multiple tenths up already on several other drivers in sector 1 alone. Despite being on slightly worn tires, Max is looking confident here. Meanwhile, J-Jo, he must have had, wait, that must be a glitch. There's no way he's been on track for 4 minutes. This game is bugging. Sketchy is going to get his run started right now. Unless that wasn't run of 44 points. No, the game is glitching out again. Stugi has invalidated his final run. Wolford, though, getting his lap only started now. Ghostly and Arrows aren't too far behind either. Now, Wolfer in this sector 1, he's improved by a little bit. Max, though, crossing the line, puts himself 2nd overall. Still just a mere 4 thousandths off of Arrows' time. Arrows is still holding on to provisional pole. This is the first session he's ever been in, if I'm correct. Now, what can he do into sector 1? He's actually down a little bit in comparison to the others. But Ghostly's gone off track. Well, his lap is completely ruined now. Wolver has not given up just yet. If he can just gain a few tenths here or there, it'll be enough to take a hold of pole position himself. And he is now up 3 tenths. He could very well beat his teammate and take a hold of provisional pole. Meanwhile, Sketchy Bull isn't too far behind. J-Jo in sector 2, 115.1. He's up by a massive amount of time, over a second and a half gained. He could very well be in contention. Slayer won't after invalidating. Wolfer does put in enough time, though, to put himself into pole position, but Arrows might have something to say about it. Sketchy Bull gets close enough to beat Arrows' time and goes second overall, so Arrows has gained a lot of time here. Could he beat his teammate and take back pole? J-Joe takes pole position now! An incredible lap for him, but Arrows manages to beat it and goes first overall. Meanwhile, Ghostly slowing down. His lap was completely ruined. Max, he's not going to be able to improve either. A little bit disappointing for Alpine, I think. Still, they are going to be starting in the top 6. An incredible lap, though, by J-Joe to put himself second overall. Just a few thousandths ahead of Wolfers. That is an incredible lap. And he's going to be starting on the front row with Arrows leading him. Wolfer and Sketchy Bull followed up by the 2 LPs in the 3rd row. Sugi and Geo and Slayer and Envy rounding out that 5th row. And once Max retires in the pits, that's going to be the end of Q3. And that's going to be the end of qualifying. That was an absolutely brilliant qualifying battle at the end. Just seeing all those times stack up for... you didn't really know it was going to take pole up until it was all over. Aerozo did a brilliant lap, put himself a couple tenths ahead of the rest of the competition to put himself into pole position. J-Joe joining him on the front row, followed up by Wolfer, Sketchy, Max, Ghostly, Sugi, Geo, Slayer, and Envy. Looks like that McLaren Alpine Mercedes battle is going to have some interruptions by Ferrari, Haas, and AlphaTauri. It's going to be interesting to see how the race plays out. We'll be seeing that shortly.